The hospital room exuded a serene sense of peace, its pristine cleanliness and comforting warmth creating an inviting ambience reminiscent of a cherished home. This tranquil environment was expected, considering the astronomical fees of this elite private clinic. It served as a sanctuary for wealthy women, privileged to welcome new life within its luxurious confines, and Lisa was among this fortunate few. At 24, Lisa's captivating beauty was accentuated by her radiant smile and soft, kind eyes. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Typically poised and composed, Lisa's demeanor had undergone a dramatic shift. Anxiety gnawed at her as she paced back and forth, unable to find calm. She stood on the brink of an extraordinary journey into motherhood, but her situation was even more remarkable. She was carrying 3 precious lives within her. This rare occurrence in the clinic, and indeed in the entire city, meant that the medical team was ever present, conducting exhaustive examinations, countless tests, and deliberating whether she might require a complex surgical intervention. Lisa found herself engulfed in a whirlwind of anxiety and fear, desperately hoping to avoid surgery at any cost. However, the obstetricians doubted her ability to endure the immense challenge naturally. The exhaustive process took a toll on her, both physically and emotionally. Yet what truly terrified Lisa was the daunting reality that she would be raising her 3 little miracles alone, facing the monumental responsibilities of single motherhood. As she paced the room, Lisa's mind was a storm of worries and what-ifs. The hospital room, despite its luxurious setting, felt like a cage. She couldn't shake the fear of the impending birth, the medical procedures, and the overwhelming future awaiting her. Her thoughts spiraled into the future, imagining sleepless nights, financial strains, and the emotional weight of being the sole caregiver for 3 infants. The fear of surgery loomed large, but the thought of not being there for her children was even more terrifying. The medical team, though attentive and compassionate, couldn't alleviate the heavy burden she carried. Their constant presence and the endless stream of tests only served as reminders of the potential complications. They were kind and professional, explaining every detail, but Lisa's heart pounded with a fear that no amount of reassurance could quell. She was physically exhausted, her body strained by the weight of carrying triplets, but the emotional exhaustion was even greater. Lisa's thoughts frequently wandered to the future, imagining how she would navigate the challenges ahead. She envisioned herself juggling the needs of 3 newborns, each with their own demands and schedules. The image of herself, alone in the dead of night, trying to soothe 3 crying infants, was a recurring nightmare. The financial burden was another shadow that loomed over her. How would she provide for them all? Her mind raced with plans and contingencies, but the uncertainty was suffocating. Yet, amidst the fear and exhaustion, there was a flicker of resolve. Lisa's love for her unborn children was a powerful force, a beacon in the darkness. She had moments of quiet determination, where she resolved to face whatever challenges came her way. She found herself making silent promises to her babies that she would do everything in her power to give them a happy and secure life, that she would find a way to navigate the stormy seas ahead. The hospital room, with its serene ambiance, became a place of reflection and inner turmoil for Lisa. The days were long, filled with medical routines and restless thoughts. But within her grew a fierce, protective love that gave her the strength to keep going. She knew the road ahead was fraught with challenges, but she also knew she would not be alone. She had her 3 little miracles, and they would face the future together. Despite her anxieties, the medical team remained vigilant, their constant presence a testament to the seriousness of her condition. They conducted exhaustive examinations and countless tests, debating whether she might need a complex surgical intervention. Lisa was engulfed in a whirlwind of anxiety and fear, fervently hoping to avoid surgery at any cost. Yet the obstetricians doubted her ability to endure the colossal challenge naturally. The exhaustive process drained her, both physically and emotionally. However, what truly terrified Lisa was the looming reality that she would be raising her three little miracles alone, facing the monumental responsibilities of single motherhood. The reality of her situation was overwhelming. Lisa's mind raced with fears of what lay ahead. She was terrified not only of the physical challenges of childbirth, but also of the emotional and practical challenges of raising three children on her own. Every day was a battle between her overwhelming fear and her deep love for her unborn children, a love that gave her the strength to keep going. The future was uncertain, but Lisa knew one thing for sure: she would do everything in her power to give her children the best life possible. The roots of this convoluted tale lay in her stern father's actions. As night descended and Lisa yearned for the refuge of sleep, her mind was haunted by the turbulent events that had sculpted her challenging life. Memories surged, leaving her agitated and heartbroken. Adopted at the age of 5 by her wealthy father, Alan, a distinguished businessman, the recollections of her time in the orphanage were faint, mere whispers of a distant past. She remembered the strict caretaker Polly, the nauseating bland soup, and the relentless struggles with her fellow orphans. Now Lisa stood on the precipice of a new chapter, her heart heavy with the weight of her fears and the daunting task that lay ahead. The luxury and comfort of her surroundings contrasted sharply with the storm of emotions within her, making her journey all the more poignant. Since those early days, Lisa's existence had become a whirlwind of upheaval. Throughout her childhood, Lisa had been ingrained with the belief to honor her elders and never challenge their commands. This deeply rooted mindset persisted even after her adoption. However, she now found herself ensconced in a lavish and magnificent mansion, where there was no longer any need to hide food and sweets beneath her pillow. Every whim and fancy was catered to, yet her father remained unyieldingly strict and exacting. Every second of her day was precisely planned out. Although he occasionally exhibited rare moments of indulgence, Lisa's routine was a relentless cycle of school, followed by rigorous swimming sessions and intense English lessons, before finally returning home. Despite the relentless demands placed upon her, Lisa excelled academically. Her intelligence was undeniable, but she was still a child yearning for simple pleasures. There were instances when she ached to join her peers, to relish a movie outing with her classmates, or to indulge in the luxury of sleeping in until dinner, if only for once. Yet her father's disapproval was unwavering. He vehemently forbade her from chasing her desires, ensuring that she devoted herself entirely to her studies to meet his lofty expectations. Upon graduating from high school, she enrolled in university, where she continued to shine academically, achieving top honors. Friendships and social outings were foreign concepts, as her father strictly prohibited such activities. Instead, he was determined to instill his business acumen in her, teaching her the intricacies of running a successful enterprise and how to shield herself from rivals who might seek to destroy her. However, his grand plans crumbled. Lisa's gentle, reserved, and compassionate nature clashed with the cutthroat world of ambitious entrepreneurs. This realization compelled Paul to change tactics, pressing Lisa to marry swiftly and bear children. He needed an heir to take over the business in his later years, doubting his daughter's capability to manage it. Wasting no time, her father found a suitable match for Lisa in Martin, the governor's son. He had meticulously calculated the benefits of such a union long before, foreseeing the strategic advantages it would bestow. Lisa's life had transformed into a gilded cage of luxury and restriction, where her dreams were stifled and her destiny was orchestrated by her father's iron will. Her heart yearned for freedom, for the chance to live on her terms, but she remained ensnared in the web of expectations and obligations, her future dictated by the relentless ambition of the man who had adopted her. Lisa, acutely aware of her father's stringent expectations, didn't dare to defy him and began dating the young man he had chosen. At first, there was even a hint of attraction between them, but it soon became clear they were complete opposites. Martin had a wild, fiery temperament, always chasing thrilling experiences. He craved adventure in every aspect of life. In stark contrast, Lisa was serene and introspective. Martin's exuberant nature made her uneasy. She found comfort in the quiet solitude of the park, losing herself in the pages of a book and being soothed by the gentle strains of soft music. But the boisterous atmosphere of clubs and rock concerts, where Martin often dragged her, left her feeling overwhelmed, plagued by pounding headaches from the deafening music and the raucous crowds, and longing for an escape. Martin, however, felt suffocated by the calm confines of their home. His restless spirit drove him into the arms of a captivating biker girl named Mia. Unable to build a lasting connection, Lisa and Martin eventually succumbed to the inevitable and parted ways, their dreams of creating a family crumbling. Filled with indignation, Paul chastised Lisa, questioning her choices. "Lisa, what on earth were you thinking? You turned your back on my business and rejected the chance for marriage. You let go of such a promising future with your fiancé. How could you?" Frustrated, he continued, "You know what, my dear, do as you please, but I implore you to grant me the gift of a grandchild." All right, the next day was marked on their calendar as the day they would visit the fertility center. A highly recommended doctor had been scheduled to meet with them, his expertise crucial in determining whether they could conceive a child. Despite living together for half a year, Lisa and Martin had not yet experienced the joy of pregnancy. Doubts began to gnaw at Lisa's mind. Perhaps there was an underlying issue preventing them from starting a family. Initially, Lisa felt deeply wounded by the doctor's probing questions. She perceived them as an intrusion into their personal lives, and the insinuation that she might be infertile felt like an accusation. The doctor's approach left her feeling offended and defensive. Tired of being treated like a puppet, she had grown weary of the constant pressure. Yet out of sheer habit and a deep-seated sense of duty, the young woman reluctantly agreed to visit the fertility center. Beneath her reluctance was also a kernel of anxiety. Following a thorough examination, the doctor delivered a shocking diagnosis to Lisa. The news was earth-shattering. The doctor explained that she had a condition that made natural conception extremely difficult, if not impossible. Lisa felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath her feet. Her mind raced with thoughts of disappointment and fear. How would her father react? What would become of her dreams of motherhood? The diagnosis cast a long shadow over her hopes, and for the first time, Lisa felt truly lost, grappling with a future that seemed more uncertain than ever before. "Please have a seat and listen carefully. I'm about to reveal something that may be extremely upsetting," the doctor began with a grave expression. "You have congenital abnormalities, which means you will never be able to conceive a child naturally." Overwhelmed with disbelief, Lisa's world shattered as she burst into tears. The news was more devastating than anything she had ever anticipated. The realization that motherhood, a dream she held so dear, would remain forever out of reach was heart-wrenching. However, the doctor offered a glimmer of hope, urging her not to despair. "Do not weep, for all is not lost. Medical advancements have come a long way, and now nothing is impossible. Indeed, conceiving through traditional means may not be possible, but fortunately there is a solution: artificial insemination. This procedure involves extracting material from both you and your partner and transferring it to the uterus, allowing nature to take its course. Admittedly, it can be quite costly. But the potential to give birth to twins or even triplets is significantly higher. To maximize the chances of success, we transfer multiple embryos. Rest assured, our track record boasts an impressive 85% success rate, with countless families fulfilling their dreams of parenthood. So please, do not lose hope. You too have the opportunity for a miracle." With tears streaming down her face, Lisa managed to muster a smile. "Doctor, I can't thank you enough for your words of encouragement. Once I find the love of my life and tie the knot, I promise I'll seek your guidance immediately." although it's still far too soon to even consider such matters. After all, I don't even have a boyfriend," she confessed, unaware that her father lurked just outside the door, eavesdropping on their conversation. Little did she know, Paul had become consumed by an overwhelming obsession. He was in a state of delirium, desperately longing for grandchildren and persistently urging Lisa to take this unconventional step. "Lisa, you must understand the importance of this," he would later insist, his voice tinged with desperation. "Our family's legacy depends on it. You have the chance to bring so much joy and continuity into our lives. We can't let this opportunity slip away." Lisa's heart ached with the weight of his words. Torn between her own dreams and her father's relentless pressure, she felt trapped. The prospect of artificial insemination was daunting, but the hope of becoming a mother, even through unconventional means, stirred a small flame of hope within her. "Maybe, just maybe, there's a way for all of us to find happiness," she thought, holding on to the doctor's promise like a lifeline in a storm. As she left the clinic, Lisa knew that her journey was far from over. It was a journey filled with uncertainty, challenges, and the possibility of miracles. Lisa hesitated at first, grappling with the enormity of her father's proposal. "Daddy, how can you even think this is a good idea?" she questioned, her voice trembling. "Martin and I broke up. There isn't even a potential father for the child. Who would be the baby's dad? And why the rush? After all, I'm not even 40 yet," but her father, a determined businessman, was not to be deterred. "Darling, please try to listen and understand," he implored, his tone softening. "You might not be 40 yet, but I'm already in my 60s. I have raised you as my own daughter, providing everything you could ever want, from the best tutors and stylish clothing to the latest smartphones. I spared no expense. And now, all I ask of you is to grant me the joy of becoming a grandparent. The doctor has made it clear that you can't conceive naturally, so why should we delay? I will meticulously search the donor database, thoroughly vetting their backgrounds to find the perfect candidate. If not now, when? Time is slipping away, and I want to ensure I have enough time to guide my future grandchildren toward success. What will become of the empire I've built if I can't witness their triumphs?" Her father's plea left Lisa deeply conflicted. On one hand, the idea seemed unnatural and filled her with dread. It felt as though he was using her as a mere means to achieve his dream of having grandchildren, without considering her own desires and happiness. The thought made her feel hurt and queasy. Yet, she couldn't ignore the kernel of truth in his words. She didn't want to remain childless, and the idea of having a son or daughter did fill her heart with joy. It was a complex decision, one she knew she had to confront. Given her situation, having a child could only happen through an encounter with a stranger. But does that really matter? There are countless stories of fiancés abandoning pregnant women, a scenario even more heart-wrenching. Then, as if by fate, Roger appeared among the candidates for artificial insemination. He was a young man with a gentle smile, exuding warmth and health. She felt an inexplicable connection to Roger, unlike anyone she had ever met, though his background remained a mystery. Despite her father's relentless urging and her own reservations, she chose Roger as her artificial insemination partner. Her decision was fraught with emotion. She was torn between the longing for a child and the unconventional means of achieving it. But Roger's presence brought a sliver of hope and comfort. As she embraced the idea, Lisa found herself on the precipice of a new, uncertain journey. The prospect of motherhood, even through such extraordinary circumstances, ignited a small but significant spark of hope within her. She resolved to move forward, holding on to the belief that this unconventional path might lead to the miracle she so deeply desired. For quite some time, no one seemed to notice Lisa's absence, and the newborns continued to slumber peacefully, oblivious to the world. The entire procedure had gone off seamlessly, without a single hiccup. Her heart, however, was racing so intensely that she feared it might actually burst from her chest. This moment marked a significant turning point in her life. It was the very first time she had dared to defy her father's strict orders and follow her own desires. The hospital room she was in exuded an aura of tranquility, pristine cleanliness, and comforting warmth, much like the inviting ambience of a cherished home. This level of comfort and luxury was only to be expected, given the exorbitant costs associated with this elite private clinic. Only the wealthy had the privilege of giving birth in such opulent surroundings, and Lisa was fortunate to be one of them. At 24 years old, Lisa's striking beauty was complemented by a warm, radiant smile and gentle, expressive eyes. Typically, she maintained a calm and composed demeanor, but now she was a bundle of nerves, pacing back and forth anxiously, unable to find a moment's peace. She was on the brink of embarking on the incredible journey of motherhood, yet her situation was even more extraordinary because she was expecting not one, but 3 precious bundles of joy. The day of Lisa's discharge from the hospital had finally arrived, filling her with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. From early in the morning, as the clock struck 11, she stepped outside with her 3 babies, her eyes scanning the area in search of Roger. To her astonishment, she saw him standing there, flanked by 2 policemen. He was impeccably dressed in an expensive suit and held a magnificent bouquet of flowers and balloons. He looked clean, well-groomed, and far from destitute. However, Lisa couldn't help but wonder why the police were present. What could possibly be happening now? She was already overwhelmed and didn't need any more complications in her life at this moment. Confusion swirled in her mind as Lisa noticed that even the nurses had gathered nearby, eager to witness the unfolding events. It was evident that such occurrences were a rarity in the clinic. One of the policemen turned to Lisa and greeted her politely. "Good afternoon. The man who took a substantial amount of money from your car, do you know him?" Lisa, her mind racing and unsure of how to respond, nodded her head, attempting to maintain a calm and unaffected demeanor. "Did he steal the money from you? He claims to have some connection to your husband. Is there any truth to that?" The questions hung heavily in the air, and Lisa felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She took a deep breath, preparing herself to navigate this unexpected and bewildering turn of events. Lisa continued to nod, hoping to convey a sense of ease and nonchalance. "I apologize. It seems there has been a miscommunication." "Indeed, that is my spouse," she proudly proclaimed, a smile illuminating her face. "I personally bestowed upon him the gift of this automobile. Therefore, I assure you, officer, everything is in order. Please excuse us as we are amidst a joyous occasion. Our precious bundles of joy, our triplets, are finally coming home. May we proceed to our humble abode." The law enforcement officer's response was a simple apologetic utterance. "We deeply regret any inconvenience caused. In order to ensure the safety of your car, we had to verify its authenticity. Well done. May you have a pleasant day ahead." With those parting words, the police officer exited the scene. Roger, unaffected by the recent events, eagerly embraced Lisa, presenting her with a beautiful bouquet of flowers. In his arms, he held 2 precious baby boys, while Lisa cradled their darling little girl. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Roger expressed, "Darling, I cannot thank you enough for bringing our precious babies into this world. I apologize for not being able to return from my business trip sooner. My love for you knows no bounds. My dear, let us return to our humble abode and revel in our joyous union." With a sense of excitement, the couple hailed a taxi and embarked on their journey home, leaving the nurses in awe of the unexpected revelation of a husband accompanying this enigmatic woman of wealth. Despite the earlier encounter with the police, Lisa's heart was filled with an overwhelming happiness radiating from within as everything had unfolded flawlessly. Grateful for the support and assistance, the young mother expressed her heartfelt gratitude to her companion. "Roger, I cannot express my gratitude enough. You truly rescued me from a difficult situation. It seemed like everyone was under the impression that we were in a romantic relationship. Your acting skills were truly remarkable as you played the role of my husband. Please don't worry about returning the car. Feel free to withdraw the remaining funds from it. It's actually my spare vehicle, so I don't keep significant amounts of money inside. Once again, thank you for your invaluable assistance. Good luck, the man said, feeling a tinge of embarrassment. He responded quietly, expressing his pleasure in helping Lisa and his enjoyment of being married to such a beautiful woman. He lamented the quick end to their marriage and acknowledged that he couldn't offer her much, considering himself a beggar compared to her princess-like status. However, he assured her that if she ever needed help again, she knew where to find him. He wished her luck and complimented her on her adorable babies before they parted ways. Later, Paul was furious when he discovered Lisa at home with the kids. He questioned why she had left the hospital alone in a cab when they had agreed he would pick her up at 2. Lisa confidently lied, claiming that the discharge had been rescheduled and assuring him that everything was fine. She introduced him to their long-awaited grandchildren, addressing him as Grandpa. The overwhelming thought of managing 3 little ones all by myself weighed heavily on my mind. We really should consider hiring a nanny, I suggested. However, my husband's face instantly contorted into a frown as he retorted sternly, "We don't require a nanny. You have the strength to handle everything independently. Learn to conquer challenges." My dear, I will hire a nanny, but only for a maximum of 3 hours per day. You mustn't allow yourself to become too at ease. Being a mother means devoting yourself fully to raising our children. It's your primary responsibility now. Lisa was deeply wounded by her father's words. It pained her to hear him speak as if she lacked any capability. Why was he treating her this way? He had pleaded with her to give him grandchildren, but now he expected her to handle everything on her own. From that moment forward, Lisa's life turned into a nightmare. The first 6 months were especially challenging, as the babies refused to eat or sleep at the same time. Just as one finally dozed off, the other would start crying, and this cycle repeated endlessly. The children suffered from tummy aches, then toothaches, and various other troubles. It seemed like there was always some kind of problem. Thankfully, an experienced individual provided some relief to the situation. In the midst of a young mother's impending nervous collapse, Nanny Helen sprang into action. Recognizing the signs of exhaustion, she swiftly whisked the babies away for a refreshing stroll. With compassion in her voice, she advised Lisa to abandon her never-ending list of chores and retreat to the solace of her bed. "If you don't take care of yourself now," Helen warned, "you'll struggle to even rise in the morning. You're running on empty, my dear." Paul, bewildered by the situation, couldn't comprehend the magnitude of Lisa's daily struggles. "I could handle a full day's work without breaking a sweat," he remarked. "It would be so much simpler for you." Helen, with a touch of empathy, a mix of emotions played across the guy's face as he caught sight of her, a combination of embarrassment and a telltale blush. However, beneath it all, his happiness was undeniable. Well, if it isn't Lisa," he greeted her warmly. "You're positively radiant. Have you lost weight? And my, how the little ones have grown. They're simply adorable. Your daughter is the spitting image of you. But the boys, well, they take after their father, don't they?" Sitting down on the bench, Lisa handed out water to the children and mustered up the courage to ask Roger a question. "You know, you're such a capable and diligent person. Why don't you pursue a regular job instead of this temporary gig? I can see that you have so much potential. It's just hard for me to understand why you're in this situation. Where do you find shelter at night?" Lisa couldn't help but feel a tinge of embarrassment as she shared her thoughts. After all, her struggles seemed insignificant compared to Roger's plight. Roger couldn't help but ponder Lisa's words. Did he really want to keep everything to himself? Maybe she could offer some assistance. The thought of escaping this homeless existence was certainly appealing. Lisa's intentions were not meant to be offensive. She simply wanted to comprehend his situation. With a heavy sigh, Roger decided it was time to open up. He had been harboring these emotions for far too long. "You're right, Lisa," he admitted. "This isn't how life should be, and it's all my own doing." Reflecting on his upbringing, he shared, "I had a normal family, at least in the beginning. My mom and I lived in an apartment, but no matter how hard I searched, I could never uncover any information about my father. Despite that, I had the most amazing mom. She loved me unconditionally and supported me in every way she could. Working tirelessly as a cook in the canteen, she always made sure I had warm pies and other delicious treats. But the weight of raising me alone eventually took its toll on her, leaving her completely drained. However, comprehension eluded me. My sole focus was on socializing with my friends. The concept of studying held no appeal, and instead I incessantly pestered my mother for a new phone or computer. Despite her best efforts, my mother worked extra shifts on weekends to ensure that I lacked nothing, yet my desires knew no bounds, and I yearned to splurge and indulge myself. After completing high school, I pursued a college education, and my mother extended her support by securing a job for me as an electrician in a factory. Nevertheless, I continued to engage in heated arguments and clashes with her. In my mind, she was just trapped within the confines of outdated stereotypes. My wings were unable to fully unfurl. The weight of misery seemed to engulf my entire existence, leaving me yearning for instant gratification. Whether it be winning the lottery or seeking out a quick and effortless path to wealth, I craved it all. In my pursuit, I found myself entangled in the clutches of a nefarious crowd, succumbing to the allure of drinking and gambling. It was a treacherous path that led to addiction, consuming me entirely. Blinded by the allure of a life-changing jackpot, I squandered my entire paycheck in that place, convinced that fortune was just within reach. Despite my mother's desperate attempts to reason with me, her words fell on deaf ears. The weight of her concern grew unbearable, reaching a breaking point. Tragically, her health deteriorated rapidly, succumbing to a fatal heart attack. The burden of guilt weighed heavily upon me, knowing that my actions had played a significant role in her untimely demise. It was my own hand that led her to her final resting place. When my mother was alive, I hardly paid her any mind, but once she was gone, reality came crashing down upon me. The once bustling apartment now felt desolate and empty. There was no one to shower me with affectionate inquiries about my well-being or to ask how my day had been. No one to say those three precious words. "I love you." I used to find her constant questioning irritating, but now, without her presence, my friends began to lead me astray, and I found myself falling back into the dangerous grip of gambling. And that's how I ended up losing the apartment, or rather, it was snatched away from me by a group of ruthless criminals. When I attempted to reclaim what was rightfully mine, they unleashed their fury upon me, warning me to vanish from their sight forever or else. Threats of death were hurled at me, and my passport was forcibly taken away to ensure that I would not report the incident. As a result, I found myself without a home. Thankfully, my grandmother had left me an old, dilapidated house on the outskirts of the city, which now serves as my humble abode. However, the absence of proper identification has made it nearly impossible for me to secure a regular job. Now, my dear princess, you have been fully acquainted with my story. This is my way of repaying for all the wrongs I have committed. Lisa was taken aback by this revelation. She couldn't comprehend the situation. "But isn't it possible to obtain a new passport? Simply explain that you have lost it, complete the necessary application, and they will issue a replacement, albeit with a fine. I am more than willing to provide you with the funds. Please don't worry." Roger pondered, scratching the back of his head. It's not solely about money, although money does play a part. The truth is, I'm terrified of those fools. You know, but you're absolutely right. I need to take action. This life of homelessness has become unbearable. And what about you? You still haven't reconciled with the father of your children. It must be incredibly tough raising them on your own, huh? Lisa suddenly interjected. Well, here's the thing, Lisa confessed. There was no father involved in the conception of my children. I was like the modern-day Virgin Mary. I agreed to undergo an immaculate conception procedure. Sure, my father has wealth, but that doesn't bring me any solace. And with that, she poured out her heart to the man, revealing every torment she had carried within her soul for all those years. She had never realized that all she needed was someone to lend an ear until now. As she concluded her heartfelt confession, she made it clear that despite the numerous challenges she faced, her love for her children knew no bounds. The identity of their father was irrelevant to her. They were undeniably hers. Sacrificing her own love life seemed inevitable with 3 kids to care for, but she had come to terms with it. Her sole purpose in life was to ensure the well-being of her precious babies. Roger couldn't believe what he had just heard. "You are truly a mother of immense strength and courage," he exclaimed. "Not everyone has the bravery to make such selfless choices. Your father's actions are inexplicable. How can he claim to love you while inflicting such cruelty? It seems that both of us have taken a wrong turn in life, ending up in similar unfortunate circumstances. You know, Lisa, I'm incredibly grateful that our paths crossed. Meeting you for the first time felt like embarking on an extraordinary adventure, and being around you brings me a sense of peace and contentment. Just sitting and talking with you, even though it may seem insignificant, soothes my soul in ways I can't explain." Lisa's smile widened. "You're absolutely right. We should meet here in the park more often. I need to take the kids for a walk every day. Come back tomorrow and we can continue our conversations." Roger agreed wholeheartedly. From that point on, they started meeting almost every day. Their conversations could stretch on for hours as they discovered how remarkably similar their tastes were in food, music, and movies. To ensure constant communication, Lisa gifted Roger an affordable cell phone. Now, they were always just a call away. Of course, word eventually reached Alan that his daughter and Roger were regularly talking in a park. Lisa found herself engaged in conversation with a questionable wanderer. This encounter left the businessman infuriated, leading to a stern scolding of Lisa once they arrived home. "My dear, have you lost your senses? Has something happened to your mental state since giving birth? Why are you befriending vagrants? And why am I hearing about this from strangers?" The words struck Lisa with a wave of embarrassment, causing her to instinctively offer excuses. "Daddy, please lower your voice. We don't want to wake the babies." Roger, a genuinely kind and intelligent individual, has always been a dear friend of mine. Engaging in conversations with him is always a pleasure due to his polite demeanor and sharp wit. Unfortunately, circumstances led him to become homeless unintentionally. However, there is hope on the horizon as he will soon regain his identification and return to living a life like any other ordinary person. Paul, on the other hand, became infuriated and questioned Lisa's peculiar choice of befriending someone experiencing homelessness. Perhaps it was the allure of that destitute man that captivated your heart. "I must insist that you sever ties with him. It would bring shame upon our family name." Lisa, in a rare display of anger, erupted, venting her frustrations. "I am utterly exhausted by the weight of our family name, Daddy. Sometimes I wish you had left me at the orphanage all those years ago. You didn't rescue me, you shattered my existence. You suffocate me, dictating every aspect of my life. Have you not realized that you have stolen my youth and my freedom? Not once did you inquire about my desires throughout my entire childhood. Swimming, in my opinion, was detestable. The fear of water still lingers within me. And what about the IVF? Did you ever consider my feelings when you coerced me into it? Is this the way a father should express love towards his daughter, especially when she is in need of my support with 3 children? Of course, I adore my children, and they are my reason for existence. But at the tender age of 24, I deserve a life of my own. It's time to put an end to this. Enough is enough. This is my life, and I will choose my own friends and partners without anyone's interference." The businessman was taken aback. His daughter had never spoken to him in such a defiant manner before. He tightened his fists and retorted, "Is that so? Ungrateful? You're just parroting your new acquaintance's beliefs. But that's all right, I'll fix it. Stay at home, take care of the children. That's your responsibility." Lisa wept bitterly as she entered the nursery and, upon hearing Brandon's cries, proceeded to change his diaper. She felt a deep sadness, a profound hurt. Why doesn't her father love her? Why won't he make an effort to listen to her, to understand her? Why won't he let her live her own life? Will things always be this way? Paul was furious, pacing around his office and desperately brainstorming ways to protect his daughter from this scoundrel. He couldn't allow her to fall for him and bring this worthless person into their home. Determined, he summoned the head of the security department and issued his orders. "Stanley, I need your undivided attention, Mr. Johnson urgently whispered. "I have a crucial task for you. My daughter is about to meet someone in the park, and I need you to shadow her discreetly. Once you locate this individual, confront him firmly. Make it clear that he must keep his distance from her. Advise him that I possess the authority to have him incarcerated if he persists. I suspect these individuals are engaging in unlawful activities, and I will not hesitate to impose penalties upon them. And make sure not to procrastinate. It's of utmost importance." Lisa disregarded her father's advice, and a few days later found herself face to face with Roger once again. Still reeling from her father's actions, she confided in her friend about the situation. He simply shook his head and responded with a hint of anger. "Your father is nothing but a dictator. Who does he think he is, trying to dictate your every move? Lisa, ever since I've met you, I've undergone a profound transformation, and my perspective on life has completely shifted, in a different approach. I've made the decision to begin anew. I will swiftly resolve the issue with my identification, I promise you, once everything is in order. I will secure a respectable job and provide assistance to you. I desire for you to break free from your father's influence and embark on a life of your own choosing. Not the life he envisions for you, but the life you truly desire. I understand the challenges you face with 3 children, but I will be by your side, and together we will overcome them. Both of us need to make changes in our lives to find happiness. What are your thoughts?" Lisa was astonished at how accurately Roger had captured her own thoughts and aspirations. In a hushed tone, she replied, "In my wildest dreams, I wish my father would simply leave me be and stay out of my life. Taking such a desperate step on my own is out of the question. However, if you were by my side, I would greatly appreciate it. But first, let's address all of your issues, and then we can reassess. Roger, I have deep affection for you. We are kindred spirits, and I sincerely hope we never have to part ways. All right, I have to go now. I'll see you this weekend. I eagerly anticipate our next encounter. Goodbye." Roger embraced her tightly, then gently caressed the children's cheeks, who were already beaming at him, and left with a renewed sense of determination, ready to make a change. Lisa stormed into his life like a force of nature, completely upending everything he knew. From that moment on, his mind was consumed by thoughts of her. He couldn't help but be in awe of her bravery. Her heart tightened. Lisa banged urgently on her neighbor's door. A silver-haired elderly man answered. The young mother immediately bombarded him with questions. "Excuse me, have you seen Roger? I can't find him anywhere, and he's not at home." The neighbor exhaled deeply. "Something happened this past Thursday. I was returning from the grocery store when I saw Roger unconscious, bleeding in a puddle. I called an ambulance right away. They took him to the city hospital. It's dreadful to think who could do such a thing to him. Lisa felt her legs buckle beneath her, feeling suddenly ill. She quickly called her babysitter, left her children in safe hands, and drove to the hospital. Her only thought was, "Oh my God, how is Roger? Is he okay? He didn't have his ID on him. Will they even treat him? I have to help him. I can't leave him like this." It took an agonizingly long time for Lisa to find out which hospital Roger had been taken to. Finally, a nurse relayed the details after consulting with the doctor, her voice low. "I'm sorry, but your friend slipped into a coma yesterday. He has severe injuries and a concussion. He's on the brink of life and death." Lisa cried out, "No, how could this happen? Who would do this to him? He's such a kind soul. Maybe he needs medication. I'll get whatever is needed. Please just save him. I beg you." She spoke at length with the doctor, who promised to keep her updated on any changes in Roger's condition. Lisa paid for all his medical procedures and care and began visiting him regularly. Yet each visit brought the same dire update. His condition was critical with no improvement. Prepare for the worst, the doctors would say. Devastated, Lisa wept, unable to accept that she might lose Roger. She prayed for his recovery and believed fervently that he would improve. She despised those responsible for his condition. But as they say, trouble doesn't come alone. A week later, the police arrived at Lisa's doorstep. Her father was arrested, accused of assaulting Roger. His assistant had reported him and provided a video recording from a phone that showed the attack on a homeless man. In disbelief, Lisa erupted in hysterics. "Daddy, please say it isn't true. You couldn't have done such a thing, could you? How could you beat a man nearly to death? Why? Tell me, I need the truth." Her father, a shocked businessman, didn't deny the charges and quietly responded, "Yes, I instructed my security chief to confront this vagrant and tell him to stay away from you. But I never ordered them to kill him. I didn't mean for this to happen, my dear. I'm so sorry." As Lisa watched her father being led away, she whispered bitterly, "I hate you, Daddy. You've ruined my life again. You've destroyed it. Why? How dare you? What did Roger ever do to you?" Paul was utterly bewildered and consumed by guilt. Why did this happen? All I asked them to do was talk to him, not to harm him. This must be a setup. But how can I convince Lisa? She despises me now, convinced that I'm a murderer. What if this innocent man dies because of my actions? What will happen then? Oh, what have I done? Why did I believe I had the right to control her life? My ambitions have blinded me, and now there's a young man fighting for his life because of my misguided decisions. He's the same age as my daughter, and I can't help but feel immense sorrow for him. These were excruciating times for Lisa, who found herself torn between the hospital, where Roger lay fighting for his life, and the overwhelming responsibilities of caring for her children, all of which now rested heavily on her frail shoulders. Her anger towards her father burned fiercely, yet she couldn't bring herself to completely abandon him. Despite everything, she still provided him with warm clothes, essential supplies, and even hired a lawyer to defend him. She had no other choice. Deep down, she knew her father could be harsh and unyielding, but he was never a liar. Under no circumstances would he tolerate dishonesty. This made her believe that someone had set him up, orchestrating this vicious attack on Roger to ensure Paul would be imprisoned. One evening, utterly exhausted from her relentless routine, Lisa found herself walking back from the hospital. Roger showed no signs of improvement, and the doctors were baffled by his condition. Desperate for some solace, she decided to visit a nearby church. As she lit a candle, she whispered fervent prayers, pouring out her heart, pleading for a miracle to save both Roger and her father. She begged not to lose the two people she loved so dearly. The next morning, as if her prayers had been answered, Lisa received a phone call from the hospital. The doctor informed her that Roger had miraculously awakened from his coma. Overcome with joy and disbelief, she rushed to his side. Though still very weak, Roger managed a faint smile upon seeing her. She sat beside him, recounting the harrowing ordeal she had endured. "Roger, my dad swears he didn't order the attack," she began, her voice trembling. "He just wanted to talk to you, to keep you away from me. He doesn't understand who would beat you so badly. I don't think he's lying. He's never lied to me. And now Dad's had a heart attack in prison. I'm furious with him, but I pity him too. You've been through so much. And it's partly my father's fault." Roger's eyes softened as he listened, the pain in his body mirrored by the turmoil in Lisa's heart. "Lisa," he said weakly, "I believe you. I can see the conflict in your eyes, and I know you're torn between us. We'll figure this out together. Your father may have made mistakes, but we need to find out who really did this." Lisa nodded, tears streaming down her face. She held Roger's hand tightly, vowing to uncover the truth and bring justice to light. The road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges, but with Roger by her side, she felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they would face whatever came their way, determined to heal their fractured family and find the peace they so desperately sought. Roger replied quietly, "I won't press charges. Don't worry. Everything will be all right. Thank you for being by my side. I heard you covered my medical expenses. You're an extraordinary person, Lisa. I've never met anyone like you. And about your dad, I hope he comes to realize the consequences of his actions. Prison won't make him any kinder." Lisa sobbed, expressing her hope. "Thank you. I hope Daddy will be released. Now, when will this nightmare end? I won't let you go back to your rundown house with no proper living conditions. Once you're discharged, we'll have enough money for the first time." Roger nodded weakly, looking at her tenderly. "I agree. Now, everything will change. Trust me, we will have our own family, and no one can stop us." Soon Paul was released, as Roger had made no legal claims against him. The man rejoiced, savoring the scent of freedom as he stood outside the prison gates. A car awaited him, the driver holding the door open. Paul had thought his daughter would be there to meet him, but she was nowhere in sight. When he arrived home, he slowly realized that none of Lisa or the children's belongings were there. Only a note lay on the kitchen table. "Daddy, don't try to find me. Roger and I are together now. Accept it and don't ruin my life anymore. I don't deserve this." Paul sank into a chair, clutching his head. "Old fool, idiot, what have you achieved? What are you left with? You pushed your daughter, trying to toughen her up, but as a result, you lost Lisa and your grandchildren." The huge mansion suddenly felt empty and cold, missing the babble of babies. No one cooked delicious breakfasts or waited for him at home. Initially, Paul set out to uncover who had framed him. He conducted his own investigation and discovered that his deputy had been secretly working for his competitors. He was the one who had persuaded the head of security to take things into their own hands and disobey the boss. Paul fired them, but it did little to ease his sorrow. He missed his daughter and grandchildren terribly, and the guilt was tormenting him. He hadn't even apologized to the poor man who had nearly died because of his orders. The businessman decided to rectify his mistake and beg for forgiveness from his daughter and Roger. It wasn't hard to find their address, and he went to visit them, full of apprehension. What if they refused to let him in? If so, they'd be justified. He'd done so many terrible things to his daughter, even though his intentions were good. The family was just sitting down to lunch, the kids clumsily tapping their spoons against their bowls, trying to eat vegetable puree, smearing it humorously all over their faces. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Lisa tensed up. Who could it be? "We're not expecting anyone. Maybe it's the landlady needing something." The young mother went to open the door, finding her father standing there with a large bag and a bouquet of beautiful scarlet roses. He said timidly, "Forgive me, daughter. I've come to beg for forgiveness. Will you let me in?" If you kick me out, I'll understand. Lisa's heart was moved. She had never seen her father like this before, devoid of arrogance or superiority, and his pleas for forgiveness were so heartfelt. She couldn't resist and hugged him. "Come in, Daddy. Wash your hands. We're about to have lunch. Join us." Roger eyed the businessman incredulously, still not fully believing that he had come with peaceful intentions. But Paul immediately said, "Hold on, daughter. I'll eat later. I have something important to say." He turned to Roger. "I am very sorry to you. I repent, but I didn't order them to kill you. I swear, forgive me if you can." Then addressing both Lisa and Roger, he added, "I'm so sorry. When I realized that happiness means different things to different people, it was too late. Lisa, you're not like me, like most people. And I couldn't accept that for a long time. I wanted you to be bold and pushy. I wanted you to inherit my business, and I deliberately made things difficult for you, like tests, thinking that by overcoming them, you would grow stronger. But I endured it and kept quiet for so many years. And when I lost you, I suddenly realized how much I love you, how much I miss you, how much I miss my grandchildren. I've thought everything over, guys, and I'm not going to cause you any more problems. I promise." The guy smiled and shook the businessman's hand. "I forgive you, Paul. I'm glad you understood everything. Lisa, she's wonderful, amazing. I love her, and I love the babies too. Here, look what I've taught them." Roger clapped his hands, and the children clapped back, synchronized, one hand and then the other. Lisa felt a mixture of relief and apprehension as she watched Roger interact with her father. Her heart had been through so much turmoil, yet here they were, possibly on the brink of mending some of the deep rifts that had formed. Paul's face lit up as he watched his grandchildren mimic Roger's actions. The joy in his eyes was palpable, and for a moment Lisa saw the father she remembered from her childhood, the one who, despite his flaws, had always loved her deeply. "Daddy," Lisa said, her voice soft but firm, "I'm willing to move forward, but things will be different now. We need to build trust again, slowly, for the kids' sake, for all our sakes." Paul nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I agree, Lisa. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be here as much or as little as you want me to be. I just want to be part of your lives, to make up for the mistakes I've made." The room was filled with a cautious optimism as they sat down to lunch together. The conversation was light, mostly revolving around the children and everyday life, but there was an undercurrent of something deeper being rebuilt among them. After lunch, Paul helped clean up, a small gesture but one that did not go unnoticed by Lisa. As the afternoon faded into evening, Paul prepared to leave, not wanting to overstay his welcome. "Thank you for letting me into your home and into your lives, even if just for a meal," he said, his voice laden with gratitude. Lisa walked him to the door, the children now sleepy and clinging to her legs. "We'll see how things go, Dad. Let's take it one step at a time," she replied, giving him a tentative smile. Paul nodded and stepped out into the cool evening air, feeling a mix of regret for the past and hope for the future. As he walked to his car, he looked back at the house, a symbol of the family he almost lost. He knew the road to redemption would be long and perhaps fraught with setbacks, but for the first time in a long time, he felt ready to face whatever challenges came his way. He was determined to restore the trust and love of his family, no matter what it took. As he drove away, his thoughts were with his daughter and grandchildren and with the man who had forgiven him. He was grateful for this second chance, and he wouldn't waste it. Paul embraced Julia, followed by Brandon and David, showering them with hugs and kisses. Tears welled up in his eyes as he whispered, "My dear children, how I've longed for you. Grandpa simply cannot bear to be without you." The businessman offered his assistance, his voice steady and reassuring. "Roger, if you require any help with the paperwork, just let me know. I have the means to expedite the process. I have connections in every corner. Just provide me with your birth year and place, and I will ensure a swift issuance of a new passport." The young man's face lit up with gratitude. "Thank you so much. Your help would mean the world to me. I've been running from one office to another for the past 3 weeks, but to no avail. Please allow me to jot down my details." Paul's hand trembled as he held the notebook. "What did you say? It can't be. What was your mother's name?" The boy appeared bewildered. "Kate. Unfortunately, my mother has already passed away." In an instant, Lisa's father seemed to turn into a statue, his hand clutching his chest tightly. Lisa's heart raced with fear. "Dad, what's happening? Are you all right?" she exclaimed, rushing to his side. Quickly, she handed him a glass of water. "Is it your heart acting up again?" Paul slowly regained his composure, his words spilling out in a confused rush. "Once upon a time, long ago, when I was a young, eager student, I cherished not only my studies but also the excitement of romantic adventures. During that time, I fell deeply in love with a girl named Kate. Our passion was intense and all-consuming. But it was also tragically short-lived. Kate came from a modest background, raised by her grandmother. When my parents met her, they immediately disapproved and insisted I break off the relationship with this ordinary girl. Fate intervened when I was sent on a business trip to another city. The separation stretched on, and our paths diverged, leading us in different directions. What I didn't realize at the time was that my so-called urgent business trip was a scheme orchestrated by my parents to create distance between me and Kate. They believed that upon my return, I would forget her and pursue a more affluent partner." Paul's voice softened, tinged with regret. "I never knew Kate had a child. If I had known, everything might have been different. The love we shared was genuine, but it was torn apart by external forces. Now, all these years later, to find out that Roger is my son, it's overwhelming." Lisa's eyes widened in shock, and she turned to Roger, who stood equally stunned. The revelation hung in the air, heavy with the weight of the past and the possibilities of the future. In that moment, Paul resolved to make amends for the lost time, to bridge the gap that had been created by deceit and misunderstanding. He looked at Roger with newfound determination. "We have a lot to catch up on, son. And I promise I'll be there for you, just as I should have been all those years ago." Lisa felt a mixture of emotions: relief, surprise, and a flicker of hope. The family she had always longed for was finally coming together, albeit in the most unexpected way. With Paul's commitment to mend the past, they all faced a future filled with possibilities and the chance to build something beautiful from the pieces of their fractured history. However, fate had other plans in store for me. During that ill-fated journey, I fell gravely ill, succumbing to the merciless grip of hypothermia. The aftermath was devastating. I was left barren, unable to conceive a child. Despite this heartbreaking setback, I channeled all my energy into my career, building a successful business from the ground up. Yet the void left by Kate's absence remained. My search for someone to fill that emptiness proved fruitless. That's when I made the monumental decision to adopt Lisa from the orphanage. But life, with its unpredictable twists, had another surprise in store for me. A son, my own flesh and blood, re-entered my life. Although a DNA test would confirm this, I am certain deep in my heart that you are my beloved son. Roger was overcome with an intense wave of shame, realizing the near tragedy he had caused, almost endangering the life of his own son. The enormity of his actions weighed heavily on him, and he desperately sought forgiveness, if such a thing could be granted. As he gazed into the businessman's eyes, a flood of disbelief washed over him. This revelation was too overwhelming to comprehend. His mind spun with confusion, and he muttered, "I don't know. I've never been told anything about my father." The enormity of the situation left Roger needing time to process this shocking information, to make sense of the truth that had suddenly emerged. Uncertainty lingered in the air, as they grappled with this newfound reality. In a sudden, heartfelt plea, Paul begged his daughter and Roger to return home. He painted a vivid picture of the grandeur and comfort of their mansion, emphasizing how it would be a far better environment for their 3 children compared to their cramped apartment. He expressed his deep yearning for companionship, admitting that the thought of living alone was unbearable. He promised not to interfere in their lives, allowing them the freedom to live as they wished. With sincerity and emotion, he implored Roger to stand by his side. Paul's voice softened, filled with a mixture of hope and desperation. "Please, Roger, come home with us. Our mansion has ample space, a safe and nurturing environment for the children. You and Lisa deserve a place where you can raise them comfortably. Without the constraints of a tiny apartment, I can't bear the thought of being alone any longer. I need my family close. I promise I won't interfere in your lives. I just want to be there for you, to support you in any way I can. Please, Roger, stand by my side." Roger felt a deep sense of conflict within him. The revelation of his father's identity, the offer of a stable and loving home, and the chance to rebuild his life with Lisa and their children, it was almost too much to process. But as he looked at Paul, saw the sincerity in his eyes, and felt the genuine desire for reconciliation, Roger realized this might be the opportunity they all needed to heal and move forward together as a family. Lisa, too, felt a mixture of emotions: relief, hope, and a glimmer of joy. The prospect of their family coming together, of providing a better future for their children, was something she had always dreamed of. With a tentative smile, she reached out and took her father's hand. "All right, Dad," she said softly. "We'll come home. We'll give this a chance." And with that, the family took their first steps toward a new beginning, united by the promise of love, forgiveness, and the hope for a brighter future. The young individuals found themselves embroiled in a fervent argument over the proposition. They debated intensely, each presenting their case with passion, but ultimately, they reached a unanimous decision: renting an apartment would be a frivolous expenditure since they already owned a house. It seemed impractical to spend money on something unnecessary when they had a perfectly good home. A definitive DNA test soon confirmed the biological link between Paul and Roger, yet this revelation did not instantly mend their strained relationship. Roger harbored a deep mistrust towards Paul, suspecting potential deceit or false allegations. The young man found it hard to believe and to trust a man who had been absent from his life for so long. However, as time passed, Paul experienced a profound change of heart. He no longer felt shame about the past, but rather a deep sense of pride in his newfound family. Determined to rebuild his relationship with his son, he took significant steps to help Roger reclaim his identification documents and offered him a position within his company. Paul meticulously taught Roger the business from the ground up, ensuring he learned every facet. Their constant and meaningful communication bore fruit in a remarkably short period, leading to the formation of a strong bond between father and son. Open communication, mutual respect, and genuine affection began to blossom between them. Despite his efforts to mend his relationship with Roger, Paul did not neglect his daughter, Lisa. On the contrary, he lavished praise upon her, demonstrating his deep appreciation and love. The family began to experience a true sense of unity and friendship. After just 6 months, they decided to orchestrate a grand wedding, celebrating their newfound harmony. Paul no longer concerned himself with societal opinions. What truly mattered was the happiness of everyone involved. Everything else seemed insignificant in comparison. As time progressed, the children grew, bringing immense joy and fulfillment to their parents. Lisa never imagined that her impulsive decision to choose Roger, a homeless man, as her husband and the father of her child, would lead her to discover the most steadfast, devoted, and loving partner. What began as a twist of fate quickly evolved into a beautiful reality. Life, with all its unpredictability, has a way of delivering miracles when least expected. The journey that started with uncertainty and doubt had transformed into a tale of love, forgiveness, and newfound family bonds. As we conclude this heart-wrenching yet inspiring tale of Lisa, a young woman pregnant with triplets who convinces a homeless man to be her husband, only to discover unexpected twists and profound lessons along the way, we invite you to reflect on this story. What have you learned so far? Please share in the comments below one thing you've learned from Lisa's journey that you will bring to practice in your own life. Your insights and reflections are valuable to us. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us bring more stories that inspire and touch the heart. Thank you for watching.